Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about artwork with a grid or following a grid or geometry. There's some artists who use the grid or geometric theme or style. There are some other ones. I'll link these in the description box for you. Materials I'm using are crayons, a ruler, a pencil, and paper. I have a lined paper and a blank paper. If you have graph paper, you don't need to make the grid at all, but I'm going to be showing you how to make the grid. First, I'm going to make the grid tracing something. I'm using a box to trace, and I'm basically going to do a freehand grid. This is an example of a freehand grid, or inspired by a grid. It's not gridded the whole way, but it's basically just the boxes with the X's inside and filled in, and that's freehanded, not using a ruler. So I'm going to show that to you as an option first, and then I'll show you how to use the ruler if you want to use that as well. So I'm going to take a blank paper, and I have the crayon box here. I'm going to use that to trace. You could also do an artist trading card size, which would be a nice size to do a gridded artwork, especially if it's freehand. So I'm going to take the box, I'm going to trace it. This is going to give me a smaller working space, which is actually going to make it a little easier for me. And I could trace the box again if I want to use it like as a ruler. I could also use the ruler to do the lines, but I'm not measuring anything. I'm just looking and estimating where the middle is and drawing a straight line down. I'm doing a sketchy light line so that it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. If you use a ruler or something or something to trace, that's okay too. But again, I'm not measuring anything to make sure it's exactly in the center. I'm just dividing it in half, horizontally and vertically. And then I'm just going to keep doing that, keep dividing the boxes in half, horizontally and vertically, until I get the grid to the size that I want. The box is the size that I want. So these are pretty large boxes right now. I'm going to keep dividing them another one time to kind of get them a little bit smaller. And you can see this is starting to look like a grid, and I could fill this in. I could use crayons on the lines or markers on the lines to get the lines a little bit more visible, or maybe I don't want the lines to be too much a part of my design. It's up to you. I could start coloring that in if I want to, or I could do diagonal grid lines too. So this is optional. I had fun doing diagonal grid lines, so I'm just going to show you how I do it, but it's optional. So you can see I'm doing one box at a time there because those boxes are not perfect since I didn't use a ruler, so it's easier to do it one box at a time. Just cross through the boxes and divide them in half diagonally so you have two triangles for each box. It takes a little while to do it that way, but to make sure it stays in the right location. I'm going to go back and do it the other direction. But that's optional too, like no matter or how many times you want to divide the boxes and whether you want to do diagonals is up to you. Okay, here's what I did with it. So after I finished the grid on that, I outlined the lines with crayon and filled it in with a design with a color scheme of cool colors and warm colors. So I said I'm going to show you how to use a ruler. This section is showing you using a ruler on a blank paper. I'm going to make a 1-inch grid on here. So I'm taking the ruler, lining the 0 on the ruler up with the edge of the paper, and then I'm going to mark it at every inch. So at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at each one make a little mark, and then just go down to the bottom of the page and do the marks again. This is going to give you two marks to line the ruler up with, which is going to help you get the line straight. There you go. Turn it to the other direction. You're going to line up the two marks on the ruler and then just make the line. And you're going to go down the whole page doing lines. And then you'll have half the grid finished, and you'll just do the other direction. So you're going to do horizontal and vertical lines. When you're done with that, you're going to go back to the top. You're going to line up the ruler with the 0. You're going to mark it at every inch on the top and bottom. This is 8.5 inches. There's that little extra half an inch, so you want to make sure that the half inch is on the same side on top and bottom. Okay, and then just do the same steps. You're going to line up the ruler with the 2 marks and make straight lines down. When you're done, it should look like that, and you could stop right there. As I said, you don't need to do diagonal lines. I am showing diagonal lines here as an option. So you just want to make sure that the ruler is dividing up the boxes diagonally. So look and make sure that the ruler's going corner to corner and it's dividing them into triangles before you start drawing the line. And then trace the line, and I can go back and do that all across the page, and I can do it both directions, or I could do it one direction. I'm going to show you both directions. I'm going to try to speed it up for you so you don't have to watch. It did take a while to do this. Feel free to skip ahead if this is not what you're interested in doing. There we go. So that's my completed, or no, it's not. Completed one direction. There it's completed both directions. So then, of course, there's like tons of things you can do with this. So it's totally up to you what kind of design you make. If you can make a design, or you could even turn it into a picture. You know, like a pixelated picture, like a Minecraft character or something like that. There's tons of things you can do with this. If you have lined paper, I'm going to show you in the next segment how to use a ruler to make a grid with the lined paper. And I'm going to try to basically make the grid the same size as the lines. So the lines are 1/4 inches, which is pretty small. So this is going to be a very small grid. It's basically like a piece of graph paper, which if you have graph paper, that's going to save you a lot of time and effort. If you have a blank paper, it might be easier to make a larger grid. So if you're doing this, I'm measuring the space between the lines. The space between the lines is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm turning it the other direction because that's the direction I need to make the lines. I've already got lines going one direction. So the other direction needs lines. So at the top of the page, on the line, I'm doing every 1/4 inch. So I'm going to show you a little ruler close up down here so you can see where the 1/4 inches are. So they're 4/16, or 4 of those tiny little marks is 1/4 inch. And then I'm marking each one of those with the pencil. I'm going to do that top and bottom, and then just connect them like I did with the larger grid on the blank paper. One plus is you don't have to do both directions because you've already got lines going one direction. So that does help a little bit. All right, I'm going to try to speed this up for you a little bit because this took a long time to do. Okay, so I'm doing the bottom, the same thing, and then connect those lines when you're done. There we go. So I'm going to show you there. It's finished, and you can decide what you want to do with it. So I thought about it a little bit, and then I went and decided to do something that's got different size boxes. So I'm just outlining some of the lines with the pencil to make them darker, and then making boxes, rectangles that are different shapes and sizes to fill it in, kind of like a puzzle or like a city from above, which is similar to the Mondrian painting that I showed in the beginning of this video. He does things that remind you of kind of the city or streets from above. And then when you're done with it, you can decide what you want to do with this. I decided to keep this one black and white, but for your picture, you get to decide. Now, what are you going to make with your grid? I had a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.